All right, what's going on? Discharge Daddies, Belden here. I know I made a video in a little bit, so just want to give you guys an update on what has been going on in game for me. We've had a pretty productive week outside of all of the stuff going on with TFT. I've actually managed to craft a couple mirror items. I'll make each one an independent video because I know people like a bit of a shorter format. As well, yesterday I did some profit stuff where we made 4.7 mirrors of profit in a single stream. But we'll get to that at a different point. The bigger news here is that we have achieved what I've been actually going after for quite a long time. For 4 or 5 leagues now, I've been pursuing this one singular item. As a long-time Discharge player, my true passion in the game being Discharge, this holds a special place for me. If any of you are familiar with what went through in Sentinel League, it was all in pursuit of this. I'll go into the specifics of it, but I know you guys probably want to see what I'm talking about, and so here it is. A thing of beauty. This is by far the rarest synthesis ring probably ever made in the game, and I will go through the specifics as to why that's the case. Obviously, this is a market that I'm very acutely aware of, having spent hundreds and hundreds of mirrors crafting and pursuing these rings in the past. In fact, in Sentinel League, I spent 50 mirrors alone just trying to craft one ring. Now, I'll go through what makes this so rare, so valuable, and so cool, and so special to me shortly here. But I just wanted to share this with you because it's not that often that I have one of those moments where it's like, unlocking a core memory in PoE, and this is definitely one of them. You can see that I've crafted this up already. We've got that 6 tier 1 or 5 tier 1 with the crafted mod. And the specifications on this ring are to that of Discharge. I'll make another video about this soon, but as another announcement, I will be starting back playing Discharge again now that I have a reason to do so. I've got another couple crafts going, as well as I've spent a couple mirrors crafting a Discharge weapon today, but I'll cover that in another video in the future. So this ring, what makes it so valuable? Why is it so cool? Why was I going after it? Naturally, as a Discharge player, you want to be stacking charges as best you can. With the inception of the Sentinel mods being able to get, Power, Frenzy, and Endurance charges as explicits, naturally that gave a lot of value to implicit Frenzy and Synthesis mods that could have any one of those charges as well. Typically, in the past, I would have been going for rings that just had one of these mods, but what was introduced this league with Synthesis re-rolling via the Beastcraft, obviously it unlocks a ton of opportunities with that. However, it's very unlikely. In the back of my mind, I knew how unlikely it would be to ever actually hit something like this, so I never really gave it a good effort. And for the sake of full disclosure here, I actually did trade for this item, not for it in its entirety. I did end up rolling the 3rd mod, but it's kind of a funny story, and so I'll go through that real quick, how I was able to get it. And I'm not sure if this has ever actually happened before, and any of you that are familiar with trade deadlines in sports, it was similar to that, in the fact that we had a 3-way trade. So what had happened was someone popped onto my stream, and I was talking about rolling this ring actually here, where I had a frenzy charge on it, and somebody was asking what my ideal mods were. I then went on, a long rant, as I obviously do, or as I frequently do, about, how I would love to get another charge on there and how much I love Discharge. And this guy just happens to go, oh, I have a ring that has an imprint of a frenzy and power charge on it. And I go, wait, what? And I was like, why is it an imprint? And he goes, oh, well, because I'm playing Flicker Strike. I can't remember what the build was, but he was playing something specifically where he wanted the frenzy charge and something else. And so this guy actually had rolled over the frenzy and power charge and put attack modifiers on it. And I was literally aghast at this because, again, I'll get into the specifics of why it's so hard to roll this in a minute, but I couldn't believe it. And I asked him to send me a screenshot because I was like, look, I will pay anything to get this ring. I've been pursuing this for such a long time. In fact, I'm not going to show you my phone here, but actually I can do it. On my phone, I have several bookmarks. Most of them are for in real world or, real life activities. However, I do have one bookmark. I don't know if you can see it there very clearly, that little Path of Exile trade bookmark, and that is actually a trade search for 2 charge rings. I've had that there for 5 leagues in a row. That is how long I've been looking for one of these. So the fact that some random guy just popped up in Twitch chat and tells me he's got an imprint of one, okay, game on. So I asked him what it's going to cost him. I started offering him multiple mirror bases. I was like, look, I'll pay you 10 mirrors for this, whatever. He goes, honestly, man, he's like, I'm not like a big economy guy. He goes, I just want to get the good version of my Frenzy Charge ring. And what he wanted specifically was a Frenzy Charge synthesis that also had cold damage for Frenzy Charge. I didn't have one of those specifically, so I go look up on the trade site, and there are a few of them. However, naturally, Janubu and RMTFT have most of them, by virtue of how they work with the mirror market. But I did see one person who had one up for sale. And it just so happened that earlier this week, I actually rolled a Dex percent, in percent Onslaught on hit ring that I didn't really feel like crafting because one of my guildmates already had one mirror crafted. And I actually had sold my ring base to this guy. And so I knew him. We had somewhat of a personal relationship because we talked a lot during that discussion process. I ended up selling him that ring for 5 mirrors. So, we were on each other's friends list. So I messaged the guy and I go, hey man, I really want to buy this. Are you interested in any of the rings that I have currently? I'll trade any one of them 1 for 1. Again, because I wanted to trade with him and then go and get that, the Frenzy Power Charge ring. He wasn't interested, but he goes, I'm looking for best in slot stuff basically that I can recombinate after the league on standard. And I was like, all right, fuck it. I like, this has been a long-term pursuit, so we're going to go after it. So what I did was I bought a Power Charge synthesis ring, similar to this, where it was, this one is actually finished, but it was just a Power Charge with 2 throwaway mods. Oh, sorry, no, it wasn't. It was Power Charge with 7% strength, which is incredibly good. And for some reason, the guy posted it for only 330 divines. To put some perspective on that, a Power Charge ring with 3 implicits by itself is worth about 300 divines. So he was only giving a 30 divine value to the strength, which is pretty crazy because if anyone has spent any time rolling beasts, it would probably cost you somewhere around 1 to 2 mirrors to add a second, mod like that. Not to mention, strength percent is actually one of the higher value mods this league because of the prevalence of strength stacking. Anyways, I obviously jumped on it. Not too long after, I was able to actually roll strength percent, power charge, and intimidate on hit. An incredibly strong combo. I linked it to the guy who had the frenzy and cold damage for frenzy charge ring, and he was like, all right, that's good enough for me. I'll take it. At this point, though, I wasn't actually sure if the frenzy and power charge ring even existed, because again, the guy didn't have any screenshots, and he said it was just an imprint he had, right? And so, with all that was going on with TFT and with the different things they've done to sort of, I don't want to say sabotage me or tinfoil hat, but the reality of the situation is that they've actively tried to interfere with my success in a variety of different matters. So, I wanted to make sure this wasn't someone just fucking with me so I would, trade away a really good item. So what happened was all 3 of us came to my hideout, and we got the guy who had the frenzy charge ring because I traded with him before. He trusted me. So he traded the guy who had the power charge ring, the frenzy power charge. The frenzy power charge guy ring then traded me that ring, and once I had received the ring base, I then traded my ring to the other guy. So we did a little triangle trade where all of us got what we wanted. What was on there initially was actually this mod here, Life Gain on Hit with Attacks. So it was Frenzy, Power Charge, Life Gain on Hit with Attacks. At that point, I was like, look, I'm going all in. This is like one of the coolest items ever, and something that I've personally been pursuing and going after for a very long time. So I loaded up on some beasts, and we got ready to go. Somewhat, I don't know if it's ironic or just serendipitous, but I was asked beforehand, what is your ideal mod here, Belton? About 100 people were watching at the time. They're like, do you want to get an endurance charge? And that might seem like the first thought, but spell damage per power charge is actually what I replied with. And the reason for that being that the majority, as a baseline for any discharge build right now, you're going to have a bare minimum of 11 power charges. 3 base, 3 from the tree, your 2 from your rings, that's 8, 2 from your helmet, and then 1 from, either assassin, occultist, or whatever. So that's 11 charges. So if you get spell damage per power charge, that's 77% spell damage as a single mod, and as well, presumptively, most people would either have a mirror copy of the same ring or would use Calandra's Touch, so it's actually 154%. Now, why that's actually better than Endurance Charge is if you go look at the 100% chance for Discharge to not consume charges build that I made in Sentinel League, which is what we're going to try and replicate here, but in a different version. I'm actually going to do it with Original Sin, so stay tuned for some content on that if you are interested in those lines. Because we're going that route. If you look at that build, I actually had 32 total charges, right? And so what the charges are used for is the base damage of the spell. And so if you have 32 total charges, adding 2 endurance charges, assuming you use the ring twice, is only 1/16 of your overall charge pool, right? Which means it's roughly 6.5, 6.6% of increase in damage, or more damage, right? So one thing that Discharge doesn't have, though, because by virtue of the fact you have to travel so many points, right, to get all of the charges that you need for the build, you don't actually have very many sources of increased damage. By virtue of gems, you have lots of sources of more multipliers. You also have lots of base damage from the charges, and also because you pass by so many jewels while you're traveling, typically you'll have 100% crit and lots of crit multi. But sources of increased damage are pretty scarce. So having increased damage like that would be somewhere around 20% more damage. Not only that, but it also makes it so the ring can be used by other builds, right? If you've got Frenzy, Power, Endurance Charge, it's only really going to apply to Discharge builds. But the way that I have it right now, there are a variety of different builds that would be find those implicits appealing. So anyways, this was the discussion I had before we started rolling it, picked up some beasts and started going for it. As it so happened, for the first time this league, and like, God bless, we actually hit the exact mod I was looking for. So, you know, I've rolled a variety. This will be now the 8th mirror item that I've crafted this league by myself. So you can see there, we got the one ring, the bow, another Omni ring, the quiver, the belt, another ring, and another ring. So obviously I'm very acutely aware of rolling rings, what roughly the mod's weightings are. They're not actually hard lines, so it's more of a feeling. But you know, I've rolled somewhere around 5,000 to 6,000 beasts, and I've seen this mod show up maybe 3 or 4 times. So in my mind, that was like an ideal thing, but I was just really hoping to get something good. The fact that we were able to hit this so quickly was like a message from God that, you know, Belton, you got to get back to your roots. Let's play some Discharge. So anyways, after we hit that implicit, and you know, I fucking fist pumped it for a little bit, and just sort of took in the moment, we got to crafting the explicits. It actually only took me an hour and a half to get it from when I bought it to make it 61 mirror worthy, and that's including the time it took me to farm an ashling from a brand new tree. So crafting rings to get them to this state is rather easy as long as you have the currency to do it. And then we got it to where it's at right now. The one little knacking thing is that the chaos res is one res shy of perfect. However, you know, to get just the suffixes, to divine the suffixes perfectly, is a 1 in 100, which means it's 100 divines. I didn't really think that spending a quarter of a mirror for one chaos res really merited the cost. And anyway, so we put that up, and I decided to start rolling a Discharge build afterwards. This ring has already been mirrored twice. I put it up for a 200 divine fee. However, because I spent so much doing it, I was excited to have it. And in my mind, again, you know, I obviously don't RFT, and I don't actually particularly care about stacking wealth that much. I just really love crafting. And the highest compliment for me is that when I make an item so cool that somebody else actually wants to use it, right? They want their own copy. I think that's like the highest form of flattery, right? And especially if I have like almost no currency on me, I'm not going to be too nitpicky. So I let the first person mirror it for 118 divines, and the second one mirror it for 150 divines. That's not nothing though, because that means today I've made, you know, almost more than half a mirror just on fees on this one ring alone. We also had our bow mirrored today's too, so actually I've made more than a mirror today just in mirror fees. Regardless though, this is one of the coolest items I think I've ever had. I'll just give you some other little quick context for those of you that are unfamiliar with you know, my past pursuits with this, and then we'll get into why this ring is actually so valuable. If you take a look here, these are my ring collection from Sentinel League, and I actually own 100% of these in the game. The 4 charge rings you can see here. This is the one and only 4 charge ring that has 2 power charges. Then we've got another 4 charge ring here with double endurance charge. We've got again Frenzy with double cold damage and T1 life. We've got power charge there, 4 charges endurance, 4 charges endurance. Elite weakness on hit, power charge. Frenzy, power, T1 life. Here we've got added damage of cold, T1 life, double frenzy. Here we've got Quetzalcoatl's life, power charge, T1 crit multi attack speed, etc. I have another 4 charge ring as well. Here you can see we've got a frenzy charge, power charge, cast speed one. There's a couple of these floating around in standard, but they're all rolled shitty like this, and they're all mirrored, so you can't craft with them. Not to mention cast speed. This is actually even T2 cast speed, That's obviously a much worse implicit, even if this were craftable. Max charge. Anyways, suffice it to say, I've spent a great deal of time pursuing these rings in the past, and for someone who crafts and plays as much as I do, it's hard to find those kind of unique experiences that you haven't had before that are they kind of stand out in your memory, and this is definitely one of those. So I'm super proud and super happy to have hit this, and I thought you guys might enjoy seeing it. Now, as to my claims about this being one of the rarest and most expensive ring bases, I know there's probably going to be some comments or some dissenting opinions on this, so I'll elaborate on what I mean there real quick. Using the term best ring ever is definitely a misnomer, and it's misleading. Best does not consider factors like what build you're playing, what's changing in the meta, etc., right? Different items and different mods are going to be best for different builds, so there's no way to say it's the best ring, but I can actually definitively prove that this is the rarest ring based and most expensive ring base ever made, and it's pretty simple to do that, and this is easy to look up on your own. The most expensive synthesis mod that you can have on any item in the game, not just rings, is a power charge synthesis ring. All right, that's more expensive than +1 arrow and a quiver, more expensive than +1 arrow on a bow, more expensive than onslaught and intimidate, percentage attributes, whatever. The most expensive single synthesis mod you can have is a power charge on a ring. You can look this up across any league as well as any historical data, and that's universally true. The second most expensive mod that you can have on any synthesis is a frenzy charge. Same thing. Take a look. You can see it on any market yourself. So we have the combination of the two rarest and most expensive mods on one item. And to highlight how rare and how valuable those are compared to other mods here, we'll just take I'll give you a little quick glance here. So we got power and frenzy. So we take a look here. You can see power charge rings start at 160 divines. If you're to raise that to 3 implicits, which is one thing, by the way, if you're pricing out synthesis mods or synthesis items, it's very important to distinguish between ones that have 3 mods and not. You can see there's not a single one of them with 3 mods that's less than a mirror with power charges, but just for a single mod power charge, it's 160 divines. For a frenzy charge, 110, 130. This person just posted it an hour ago. This is actually rather unpriced. Anyone that's watching in chat right now, if you want to flip something, actually it's only item level 77. That's why I take that back, guys. I wouldn't actually buy that at 77. But you can see 120 divines. To put some perspective on that, another mod that a lot of people consider to be one of the best ones, that is highly sought after and pretty much universal, would be Onslaught. And you can see here, that's only 20 divines. So a frenzy charge is 6 times more expensive. Power charge is 8 times more expensive. Onslaught, I would say, is probably the third most valuable mod total. This league, there's been a lot of value put towards attribute stacking, particularly because a lot of mirror builds are using Omni, but even strength stacking. You can see here 30 divines even. Actually, I guess this league is a bit more expensive, so this is probably the third most valuable one. But anyways, my point being, by an order of magnitude, power and frenzy are far more expensive. And as to the claim, again, I guess just to prove this, if we're going to look at say +1 arrow on a bow, they start as cheap as 3 divines. A quiver actually is probably a bit more expensive. Let's see, 200. Oh, is that 3 mods or not? Okay, well, this is actually, you know what? I think this is just by virtue of people having rolled them this league as well. You can see this is only 3 mod ones. Maybe take a look on offline. Again, if you look at a 3 mod power charge, it starts at a mirror. 195. Well, these are all 3 mod ones though, so it's a little bit misleading because again, power charge is that. But if we're just being objective here, I suppose that could be considered to be more valuable. But again, those are all 3 mod implicit synthesis ones. And if we are to look at 3 mod implicits on frenzy or power, they both are higher. You can see 240 online and offline is a bare minimum there. 280 online. So technically, still correct. I just don't think that there were any single mod +1 arrow quivers on the market. That's all. In any case, though, you can see that that's going to be universal across leagues. The 2 rarest mods specifically, as well. Just to speak to the rarity of the item itself, you can take a look at power and frenzy charges here, just to have those 2 mods combined. And there is only one item that exists. We'll do online, offline. This item right here, I actually just showed this to you guys, the cast speed frenzy one. This is back when you were able to use beasts to split them, which is why they're all mirrored. Obviously, this is not craftable, so it's somewhat negated. I'll turn off mirror items here. Even if it worked, though, obviously that third implicit is terrible. This is the only other ring in the game, base-wise, that has power and frenzy charge. And as you can see, the third mod here is Rarity. This guy had a lot of balls, and I'll give him credit for this because he did actually recombine this to add another frenzy and power charge. So in an absolute sense, this ring as it currently sits would totally be more valuable than mine. That being said, though, obviously by virtue of the fact that he's put these mods onto them, he's never going to re-roll the third implicit, which again, it leads me to my conclusion that the spell damage for power charge frenzy power is the most valuable ring base that has ever existed in this game. And again, this is standard here, obviously, in leagues. You know, they don't exist aside from my own, of course. Spell damage for power charge is by far, I think, one of the, like, if not the top mod, it's definitely top 3. Especially with Calandra's Touch being so cheap, things like Ellie Weakness on hit or Onslaught on hit or anything like that, where if they're replicated with Calandra's Touch, it doesn't add any additional value. That tends to diminish the value of that mirror item. So this is one of the new mirror items I crafted this week that I haven't shared with you guys yet, but you can see here it's Dex %, Int %, Ellie Weakness on hit. If I were to use Calandra's Touch here, the Ellie Weakness on hit you can't apply that twice, right? So it's basically a wasted mod. So that's why things like spell damage per power charge are so valuable. You could make an argument for Endurance Charge, I suppose, just for a Discharge build, but in general, this would absolutely be one of the top tier, if not the absolute best mod that you could have. So yeah, that's the story of the ring, guys. I hope, hope this, I know this type of video doesn't really involve a guide or anything like that, but really exciting moment for me, so I thought you guys might find that interesting, and pretty cool to see, one of the best of something, and I'm pretty proud of this one. So I'll try and make a couple more videos, update you guys soon. Hope you enjoyed, and let me know if you're looking forward to seeing some Discharge content, or if you have any questions along those lines, because I'd love to talk about it. All right, cheers, lads.